Hello, I'd like to talk to you this afternoon a little bit about the saltwater speed cast. The saltwater speed cast was developed back around the 1950s when guides in Florida were missing a lot of fish. Their clients were missing a lot of fish because by the time they got the fly to the fish had either swam under the water and they lost visibility, or it swam out of distance for the caster's ability to cast, or they just lost sight of it. And they have developed over the years a number of methods of speed casting that are all they're very, very similar, but they all have some little nuances that differ. And you just pick if you like this particular video, go with it. If you like somebody else's little tips, go with theirs. There's no one correct way to do this cast as with any other cast that we've talked about. So the saltwater speed cast is designed to be able to cast up to 90, 100 feet of fly line with only 2 to 3 back cast. So you have to have, number one, you've got to have the right fly line for the job, you've got to have the right rod for the job, and you've got to have the right technique and a lot of practice. So I'm going to show you the technique. First of all, the fly line, you need a weight forward fly line, something with a head possibly around 30, 35, 40 feet would be fine, but you do need a weight forward fly line for this to perform the best. That line needs to be very clean so that that line slips through the guides very easily. Okay? One of the first key things about the cast is how you hold the fly. You want to hold the fly at the bend of the hook such that the bend is facing away from you, and you never want to drop the fly. That seems kind of odd. How can I make the cast without dropping the fly? You simply let the weight of the fly line as you start the cast to let that momentum pull that fly away from you, and it will go into front and around, and you have much less chance of the wind blowing that fly into your clothing. So you hold it by the bend of the hook and do not let the fly drop out of your hand. Just let the weight of the line pull the fly away from you. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up to where you've got a lot of line out of the rod tip as possible. For example, you want to have, if you can handle in your fishing situation 20, 30 feet of fly line out of the rod tip, by all means get that line out of the rod tip. If there's no trash in the water and you're able to let that line float behind you in the water, go ahead. Use as much line as possible out of the rod tip to help you load the rod, because that's going to allow you to shoot more and more line quickly. The next thing you're going to do is when you get set up for this cast, you're going to want to make sure that there's nothing around you that can get hung up in the boat and hang up that fly, that line. Anything that might get hung up, either move it into a compartment, move it to the back of the boat, or cover it with a netting, but make sure there's nothing to get, or very minimal stuff to get hung up with that fly, because Murphy's Law works 90 miles out in the Gulf just like it does in Montana. So what we're going to do, the next thing, is we're going to make sure that when we cast, we are going to cast to the fish that the guide is looking at. You know, there might be a multitude of fish out there and you see one, but he's the smallest one in the group. Your guide is up 6 feet above you. He's got a much better vantage point than you for spotting the largest fish. So make sure that you're seeing the fish and casting to the fish that he wants you to. That'll also assure that he can get you out of the way of the back cast, because if you're going for a fish over here and he's pushing the rear of the boat this way because he sees a fish over here that he wants you to cast to, and he thinks you're going to false cast over there, well, when I make my cast for this fish and I false cast to him, my back cast goes right into his head. So make sure that you point to the fish, you identify the fish to the guide. Okay, there he is at 11 o'clock at 50 feet. Now you're ready and set up to go. You've got to make sure that you've got enough line out of your reel, right? One thing you don't want to do is take more line off your reel than you're more than likely to have to cast at that particular time. If you are fishing at 7 o'clock in the morning and the sun has barely come up over the horizon, you're not going to be able to see a lot of fish at 70, 80 feet unless they're tailing. You're only be able to see fish in the water that the sun rays are such that they reflect back into your face and you can see them if the water's clear. So only take out what line that you're liable to cast. When you first get to your fishing spot, pull out the line and make a sacrificial cast, I call it. Make a cast to cast all that line out so that, number one, you're validating, hey, yes, I have the right amount of line for the cast. I don't have an excess. Okay, he tells me he wants 50 feet. That's 50 feet. I'm going to roll this back in. Now I'm going to strip my line back in, and I'm going to make sure that the coils on the bottom are the first ones that I strip back, and the coils on the top are the last ones I strip back. That way, when I go to make the cast, the line on top comes off first, and I'm less likely to tangle. All right. The next key component, I told you to hold the fly at the bend of the hook. We want as much fly line out of the rod tip as we can handle. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to also ask you, with that same hand that you're holding the fly with, I'm going to ask you to use that same hand to hold the fly line right here. All right? That's going to eliminate a step that we used to teach. We used to teach that you'd hold the fly line like this, and then when you made the cast, you had to find this fly line with your line hand. We're not going to do that today. We're going to hold this line with the line hand and eliminate a step altogether. So here we go. We spot a fish. Ah, is he this one? The guide says, no, he's over there at 11 o'clock. So over here, there he is. So the guide gets himself out of the way. I'm going to make a roll cast pickup. Here's my roll cast pickup. I'm going to shoot line on the back cast, on the forward cast, on the back cast, on the forward cast, and I'm out to the fish. You notice two things. I never took my eye off of the fish. I didn't look at my back cast. I looked at the fish all the time, and when I shot the line, I maintained control of the line with my fingers. By doing that, if that fly lands on the water and the fish takes, I can immediately set the hook. Also, if I made the cast too far, I can strip in line. If I didn't make the cast far enough, I can immediately pick up line and then cast it back out with some more. I'm Keith Richard, Master Casting Instructor with Fly Fishers International, here with A Hero USA. Check out aherousa.com and consider becoming a friend today. Thank you.